Yo, how's everybody doing tonight? I am here to come clean and let you know that I have a promise that I want to make to all of you, and it's about academics. On this channel, I talk a lot about sports mainly, like jujitsu and like how I'm doing and all that. But what I want to do now is take a little shift and move more towards the academic side, because it's not just about improving physically. I'm also trying to get that bag, get that paper, you know? So it's currently the 24th of March. Sorry, that's a good start. 24th of February, and I have two exams coming up, the 14th of March and the 16th of March. The 14th of March is a finance exam, and the 16th is a global operations exam. What I want to do now, which I'm around 3 weeks before the start of these exams, is let you guys know, making a promise out there, that I'm going to kill these exams. I'm going to kill these exams. I'm usually someone that doesn't do well in exams because I think that I either mess up my preparation, or I'm not committed to the end, or I'm not resourceful enough. But this is where I make a change. I really believe that if I come clean and let you guys know that this is what I'm going to do, that I'm going to do it. And I will show you guys the grades when they come out. But basically, I think in all my past of academics and stuff, I've learned through exam failures that there's really 4 things that I need to keep in mind when preparing for these exams. So the first is the resources. Depending on what the exam is, I have to make sure that I have all the resources gathered onto one document. So if it's readings, if it's slides, if it's textbook material, whatever it is, I need to make sure that I have every single resource gathered to make sure that I have everything and I'm not missing anything. Because there's been exams in the past where I've only studied from the slides and I knew them super well, but then they asked me something about a reading or something in a textbook and I didn't even look at it. And so then the grades suffered, but not because I didn't prepare well, but because I didn't gather all the resources. Once you gather all the resources, meaning you have a big document, like 50, 60, 70 page Word document with everything in, you need to give yourself time. You need to give yourself the time to mull over every single bit of material. Because it's not just about writing up the notes. Believe it or not, for some exams, I spent most of my studying gathering up the notes, and then I got to 2 days before the exam and I was like, okay, I got everything, now it's time to read everything. And obviously you can't memorize 70 pages in a day or 2 days, right? So the exam didn't go well. Again, not because I didn't get the resources, but because I didn't give myself the time to read over everything. And then there's another step with the exams. It's we've talked about resources, we talked about time, but then it's repetition. Because once you give yourself the time, you can't just read the material one time to make it stick in your head. There's some things that you'll understand and will come natural to you and you'll just remember them. But there's also some things that you'll just read and and not understand what they're trying to say at all. And so some things you sort of have to force in your brain. And this is why the concept of active recall exists. Active recall is essentially repeating the material enough times to the point where, or understanding the material deep enough to the point where if someone were to ask you something, you can recall exactly what that thing is and repeat it back to the person. Active recall is super important because there's been many times where I've been reviewing for exams and I think I understand something because it's highlighted, and then when someone asks me, maybe I struggle to respond. I struggle to give the correct definition, or I take a really long time to explain the concept, or I give a really long explanation that's not to the point. If you're not able to explain something well, it's because you don't know it well enough. And so my point is that once you gather the resources, once you have the time to repeat everything, you need to give yourself a repetition phase. So typically what this means is that you've studied all the material, you've understood all the material, but now you have to repeat it so that you can actively recall it. Because the exam is not just about understanding. The professor doesn't go into your brain to see if you've understood the material. He looks at the paper to see if you're able to translate what's in your brain out through your hand and onto the paper. And typically the repetition phase I usually give myself a week, depending on how much material there is. And what the repetition phase means is like you've highlighted everything, you've looked at everything, but now you're literally just looking and repeating to the wall, looking and repeating to the wall until like you can't, until you're basically like, you know it like perfectly. Even if you don't understand it, like you're able to recall it and get it out there. And in my bachelor's, like I had a friend who told me like, you have to die on the books, basically. That was sort of the mentality, which is like, you can never be 1,000% ready. You can always like mull over and understand something better or more precisely, or recall it more quickly. And so just reading over it, you need to, after you understand the material, you need to give yourself that time to get it out and repeat it. And typically when you do this repetition phase, it's good to do it out loud, because sometimes when you read things in your mind, you only take in a certain percentage of the material, versus if you act it out, if you associate the material to like hand gestures or physical expression or even verbal expression, you're able to assimilate the material more. So repeating out loud is more efficient. And the final step is just proactivity. So during these first 3 stages, if there's something that is unclear to you, if there's a concept you don't understand, or something that you don't like, something that's missing, maybe like you missed the class, or you weren't able to figure out a certain concept, you need to proactively fix that right away. Figure out what exactly is missing and get that from someone, either a classmate or message the professor. Because if you miss any of the step of like the resource aspect, it doesn't matter how much time you give yourself, it doesn't matter how much you repeat. If there's material missing, you know, you're not gonna, or something you just don't understand, like you have to, everything's gonna fall apart. So you have to be proactive. If there's something that's unclear, if there's something that's missing, find it, solve it right away, and fix it. I remember for one exam in my bachelor's, I didn't go to that many classes, but I had all the material, and I just sat down one day and I looked at everything, and I just got a piece of paper and I wrote out like 70 questions about the things that I didn't know. Like there was a lot of things that I didn't understand. And I went to a friend of mine who was like an expert, like he was really good. I think it was like something related to politics. I don't know, I'm really bad at that. But I asked him everything, and we spent maybe 2 hours where it was just like, I had the paper with the questions, and I was just saying like, what's this? And I was just writing what he was saying. And I integrated it all into my notes. I understood the material, and then I was able to repeat this stuff, and it was one of the exams that I did best in. Not because I was good in the subject, not because I was smart, but because I was proactive. I knew what was missing. I knew I didn't know anything. I knew the questions I had to ask, diverted them to an expert, someone that's good at it, and then assimilated all the material, all the answers, so that I could then follow steps 2 and 3, which is time and then repetition. This is what I'm going to do for these 2 exams. If I have 3 weeks, which I think is enough time to get them out. And so now today I'm going to begin the step 1, which is to gather all the resources, and I'm preparing to make sure that I can get to a week before each exam with everything done, just so I can have like the repetition phase, because that's super important. So once again, the four steps that have helped me do well in the exams, and you can't miss these steps, are: number 1 is the resources. So gather every single bit of resource that's relevant for the exam, get it on one piece of paper. Second is time. Give yourself the time to look over, understand, ask questions, fix up the concepts you don't understand. And then you need to give yourself that repetition time, that recall time, to make sure that everything really, really sticks in your head. And then the 4th is proactivity. And this you have to do throughout the whole process. If there's something you don't get, fix it right away. Ask questions. Like, you need to be resourceful in making sure you don't cut any corners and you fill up every single little gap. And if you follow these steps, which I will, there's no reason why I can't do these exams well. And this is my message to you guys, to keep myself accountable to you. I'm gonna make it happen. I will show you the results, and that's it. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe. Why not? Yeah, subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.